Hello, hello, and welcome everyone. Very excited to be here with you all and having this conversation. So to start off, we'll do some introductions. I'm Cathy Liska. I'm an MCC coach and CEO of the Center for Coaching Certification. Pan, tell them about you.
I'm Pandora Ray. I had a career in public health, and I late in my career was introduced to coaching and have since been trained as a certified professional coach at all. And I'm here in the conversation because I'm passionate about the profession.
Yes. And one of the things Pan and I are working on together is providing coaches through Coach 123. And there's more and more going on with that. And part of the conversation today is about increasing access to coaching. So we are super, super excited to have Bijou with us. Bijou, introduce yourself.
All right. Hi, my name is Bijou Attey. I work in industrial organizational psychology. After I got my master's, got trained, and I currently am a certified master coach, working towards my ACC level certification. And I'm also training to be a coach trainer with the Center for Coaching Certification, currently living in Ghana and working remotely.
Fabulous.
Yes.
Fabulous, fabulous. Super excited. All right. So in setting up for this conversation, we talked about a couple of things, set the foundation for it. So let's start with defining coaching, what it is. Pam, let me throw that ball into your court.
Coaching, something not well understood. It's a relationship shared with another individual where it's basically a partnership, where you explore perspective. You think about, I usually use a funnel where you are looking up and up and out to expand perspective, to increase your thinking about a particular situation, to expand and increase your awareness about your surroundings, your issues, your challenges. It's really having a strategic thinking partner who's also listening and feeling and emoting with you.
Yeah. That word partner is one that always stands out to me. What I love about it is when you think about hiring a professional, you think about them being the expert. And to a degree, they're kind of on a elevated platform. They're going to pass on their wisdom and expertise. And in coaching, we're literally saying, no, we're on the same level. We're your partner. And the coach brings the process to that partnership, and the client is their own best expert. They're the ones with the answers.
Beautiful.
So what is the value of coaching?
I think for me, the thing that always stands out, especially since I learned about coaching and as I've been coaching myself, is the empowerment, that our clients receive as they go through the coaching. You start to see it in the way that they talk, in the way that they approach their challenges or whatever it is they're discussing in the sessions. That empowerment, I think it is a real value in coaching.
Yeah.
To add to that too, it's a great comment, is that it's enhancing of confidence, self-belief, determination in terms of where you are at a particular juncture, whether it's professional, personal. It really gives you a sense of a definition, if you will, in a real organic way.
Yeah. A phrase I use a lot is that it's advanced development for advanced results. And my description for that is when we're young, we go to school. And then as we get older, we do training specific to a career or profession. Sometimes that's through college. Sometimes it's through, a trade school, that kind of thing. And a lot of times it's through certification programs like what we're doing. After the training and the education, we often have a mentor. Sometimes we engage consultants. We bring experts in with that information. And then when we talk about coaching, now we're at that advanced level that person is their own best expert. And when you really tap their inner expert, that's how you get the results.
And I love that you said results, actually, because I know that in our training we always talk about, solution focused coaching, where you're focusing on, okay, so this is what I'm currently dealing with, this is where I am right now, how do I get to that side? What are the solutions that I can come up with as a client for whatever it is that I'm facing, whatever it is that I want to achieve? So it's always looking forward.
Yeah. And what's so interesting about that, back to comparing it with, for example, a consultant or a mentor, when you have a consultant or a mentor, they're going to give you the solution.
Yeah.
And how often, when they give those solutions, how often is that actually used?
Rarely.
Right.
Yeah.
So we were talking about that. It's when the person comes up with their own solution, they own it. And that's where you get the follow-up.
Yeah. And I like that you always call it a buy-in, where like it gives the client ownership. And again, when in coaching, I always get excited about this when you see the client, coming up with those ideas. And it's not you telling them, but it's them coming up with it, and they're realizing, hey, wait a second, this is possible. I can actually do this. Again, with that theme of empowerment, coming up with those solutions, you can see how it changes the way that they commit to whatever it is that they want to do. It brings that extra commitment.
Yeah.
I'd like to add to something to that. And there's a practice we do called a personal affirmation story that a coach works with a client. And to spend time with them, just querying what is important to you. What do you want in your life going forward? What does it look like in relationships with family and friends and work? What's your legacy? How do you want to go forward? And the coach actually synthesizes in that interview, that's a long time actually, and does a recording and sends it back to the client for their own use. You do a debrief, and it's amazing what people say when they have that recording, that affirmation to them, how that becomes engendered in their core, in their spirit, and how they use that effectively going forward.
Yeah.
I think you're a real fan of that.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
You might have designed it, by the way.
Yeah. And actually having the client record it for themselves, because who do they trust more than anyone else?
Right.
Themselves. And it's huge. It actually speaks to how coaching is so important to people. Pan, you mentioned earlier the self-determination. You talked about confidence. That process actually supports that self-determination and that confidence. It's such a game changer for people.
Yeah.
On there.
That is true.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. And the interesting thing is, talking about that confidence again, it's not just something that stays with the person, it starts to affect all other branches of their life. So it's not just, okay, in this moment, you actually start to see it affecting every single aspect. So it literally becomes a world changer in a way, right? Their world.
Yeah, well, it affects them in all their relationships. It affects them on the job. It affects them in everything they do. So it's a huge piece. And it speaks to the value and the importance of coaching for absolutely everyone. Yeah. What else? I mean, what do you want to add to that? How is coaching important for people?
Well, I know we were talking earlier about the fact that, well, for me, when I first learned about coaching, I knew about it as something that is normally done for executives or, business people or people who have some sort of profession, not the average person, the housewife, or, maybe the student might get a little bit of that until they've graduated, and then, well, that's it. But then to know that it can affect and it can benefit everyone, no matter what stage of life you're in, no matter what your profession is or lack thereof,
Mhm.
no matter what your mindset is, your economic status, it really does make a difference for everyone.
Yes. Can you imagine the world with a coaching culture?
Oh my
The whole
goodness.
world. I mean, we talk about a coaching culture in an organization. What if the whole world had that?
It calls to mind too that concept of service, paying it forward. And that's what
Mhm.
coaches do is they sit in space with, barriers, not barriers, but boundaries between the coach and the client, and just are there. I mean, who in the world has somebody to sit with them for an hour a week, an hour a month, totally dedicated to what they're doing, what they're thinking, what they're feeling, what they want to accomplish? That's just mind blowing when you think about service and how that
Yeah,
affects people.
yeah. No judgment, no limits, no,
Yeah, well,
restrictions on what you can talk about.
yeah, because they're holding the space. It's safe, it's confidential,
Mhm.
and they're on your side.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that word safe. I
Yes.
think that right there,
Yeah.
that makes the difference.
And they find through techniques, they're a way of asking these probing questions that
Mhm.
you scratch your head going, where did they come up with that? And it's just open, probing, exploratory connections with the client that really just create a new vanguard, new open territory for the future.
Yeah. Well, and it supports well-being.
Yeah,
It supports your satisfaction in life, both on a personal level and a professional level.
We'd all be healthier for sure.
oh my
Absolutely.
goodness, for sure. Yep, yep,
All right.
yeah.
So Bijou, I'm going to come at you with a question. What are the barriers to accessing coaching?
Whew, okay. So as I said, I'm here in Ghana, right? And I've been here for 3 years. I've been within my Ghanaian community because that's my heritage since I was born.
Mhm.
And I know that one of the biggest barriers to coaching is the awareness and understanding of it, right? Knowing not just that it exists, but actually understanding what coaching is, which I guess is why we defined it to begin with,
Mhm.
right? Clearing it up. Because when we hear about coaching, we normally think, especially within the Ghanaian context or the African context, we think football, sports coaching. And that's where we use that terminology. We don't use it for anything else. Everything else would be advising, tutoring, mentoring, that sort of thing, consulting, right? But one of the biggest barriers is that awareness and that understanding. Most people don't know what it is, and so they don't know that it is available to them and that it's a possibility for them to have it and to use it, and it can actually make a difference for them.
Yeah.
And how are you doing that? How are you creating this expansive awareness of it?
Oh, geez. That's there's so many events and happenings. And I think, yeah, I don't know. Do you want to explore it now or it's a
Sure.
lot?
Sure.
It's a lot. Okay. All right. So first thing we are doing, I'm actually, partnering with Cathy and a couple of other key players on this one to bring coaching to Ghana officially. So we are working to train coaches, right? Offering that coach training here in Ghana at rates that are accessible to Ghana. Because another big barrier that we have is the financial barrier,
Mhm.
where coaching in the States, if you're charging it in dollars, you can't really do that here in Ghana and have it be effective because most people's 3 months rent would equal to one training session, I guess. One, not even the cohort that
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
start off.
Yeah. Even just ICF membership or a couple of
Exactly.
coaching sessions, that's a month's rent.
Yeah.
right? And the dollar fluctuates all the time. So already working with Cathy and the others to offer this coaching at rates that make sense to Ghanaians, that can actually be affordable to Ghanaians, is a big thing, right? So now take that out of the way and look at the possibility of, all right, so we can be trained as coaches, and then we have that extra benefit of a cultural context, coaches who are, aware of the cultural context. And so they use that, they apply that in their coaching of Ghanaians. Again and again, I'm talking about the Ghanaian context because that's what we are currently working with, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm aware of, right? And then we're also growing a community of coaches who provide those services within Ghana, right? And I think you can address this later, but a lot of the organizations here, which are international or even local organizations, will normally bring in coaches from outside, which you can imagine is already expensive for them, right? And then again, we're talking about cultural context, somebody who has no idea how to approach what is appropriate, how to understand to some degree, yes, but the culture also helps with that. So yeah, I think those are some of the ways that we are approaching it. And then also looking out for events like the International Coaching Week, right? Just from working with Cathy alone, I've met a couple of other coaches here in Ghana who I didn't know existed at all, who already had wanted to start an ICF chapter, but they didn't have enough coaches. They didn't really know how to approach it. And now we're all working together to do something for International Coaching Week. And it's expanding our thinking as coaches about who else we can target, who else we can bring in to partner and collaborate with us on this.
I'm so glad you said that, because I was thinking about how impressive it is that you understand coaching training competes with rent. It competes with children's tuition for school.
Yeah.
Who is it you're wanting to reach in terms of this awareness and increasing it about coaching?
So we want to reach, well, I guess we can divide it into 2 or 3 categories. First off, the coaches who are here in Ghana, because like I said, I am a certified coach and I didn't know there were others out there like that. And apparently they're all right down the street from me here in Ghana. And I've been here for 3 years, right? And it took me 3 years to find that small community. So they would be the first ones. Second ones would be the organizations, right, who outsource. Because if I didn't know that my fellow coaches were here, I can only imagine they have no idea that they have so many capable coaches within the country itself, much less the city. And then finally, the community, the Ghanaian community, right? Because they are the ones who I think, again, would benefit the most. They are the employees, they are the employers, right? And they're also the coaches. So affecting the whole, or targeting the whole community, will already make that difference. And I told Cathy this before, Ghana is such an entrepreneurial country, that we can't take Western influences and apply it the same way here, right? So having coaches there to support, and I'm glad you mentioned, finances competing, whether, you should go for coach training or go for coaching where it'll be beneficial, but your kids have to eat and they have to go to school. So how do you decide? In focusing on the community and their what they want and what they need, that already is making a difference in how we're approaching them and what we're providing for through our projects.
So what are the reasons for this targeted effort in Ghana?
Okay, so I came into the story a little bit later, but I know that one of the CCC graduates actually, came up with that idea, partnered with Cathy on that. And from there, Cathy was like, yeah, let's work at it, and then brought in a few other coaches, for training, or future trained coaches. Now all of us are more or less certified, right, Cathy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, basically it was an opportunity
Yeah.
and
And
growing
possibility.
interest in Ghana, starting to get that awareness
Mhm.
out there.
Yeah. It's still
Yeah.
working at it.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting because I think a lot of coaches are, well, I'm one person. This is a big, huge world. What can one person possibly do to make a difference? You've probably heard that story of the little boy walking down the beach with his grandfather, and there's starfish washed up on the beach, and he picks them up and throws them in the water, picks them up, throws them in the water. And his grandfather says, "What are you doing?" "Well, I'm saving them. They'll die if they stay here." And his grandfather looks down the beach. He said, "There's thousands of them. You can't possibly save them all." And the little boy says, "Yeah," picks up another one, throws it in. He says, "Save that one."
Mhm.
And this idea, we can't do everything for everyone, right? What can we do?
Yeah.
And so it's okay. Here's an opportunity, a place where
Mhm.
there's interest and growing interest, and we can do something there. And so we're going to do what we can do as well as we can do it to make a difference there. And every
Mhm.
coach out there has that same opportunity. Okay.
Yeah.
Not going to save the whole world. What can you do?
Mhm.
I'm so glad you said that, Cathy, because it just made me think about there are lots of models. You can do individual coaching, you can do group coaching, you can do team coaching. I mean, there are lots of ways to leverage resources and find economic scales um, that make a lot of sense and reach more people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And coaches, we'll see some that will do like a sliding scale.
Mhm.
So that they'll charge a rate based on what that individual can afford. A lot of coaches go into nonprofits and do some volunteer work there. It's big. And I think it starts with, of course, the coach has got to become a coach, developing their own competency, and then
Mhm.
communicating their openness and that delicate balance of, yeah, I'm open. Yeah, I want to make a difference. Yes, I want to work with everybody, because sometimes access is, okay, are they different than me? Will they accept me? And there's fears behind that. So communicating a level of openness to everyone is huge.
Yeah.
And then the options of how we can make it accessible for people. Yeah. It's we talked about organizations. Bijou, you mentioned, for example, in your organization. So they're sponsoring coaching services for employees. And
Mhm.
now the organizations there in Ghana can also be training people to coach internally inside that organization.
Yeah, it's amazing. I know, especially with the way that things are going now, a lot of organizations are tightening their belts a little bit, so to speak, right, financially. So can you imagine how much more, of an investment it would be with a lesser cost, right? It's a huge investment,
Yeah.
but they're not investing as much financially as they are in terms of the human resources, just by training coaches within their context instead of outsourcing it,
Mhm.
right? Which I think is a huge benefit. And Cathy, you always talk about ROI, so take it away.
Well, and the reason organizations do it is the average ROI is 600%. And that's phenomenal. What they do invest in coaching pays them back 600%. What else can you get that from?
Yeah, people stay longer, people are happier.
Yeah.
Increased productivity, increased employee engagement. Yeah.
Which, as an IO psychologist, that kind of thing just makes our day. That's what we live for. So it's definitely something that I think I really strongly believe that more organizations need to look at coaching internally.
Absolutely.
I'm curious about your reflections on this conversation. What are you thinking?
And we're
Talking to
going,
Cathy?
who are you asking?
I'm talking to Bijou. What are you thinking?
Oh. uh, I don't know. This is exciting. it's a conversation which I've maybe had like little snippets and bits and pieces here and there, in the past with other coaches, with Cathy as well, but now that we've actually taken the time to go through, defining it, figuring out the benefits, not just to one specific group of people, but to a community as a whole, regardless of where you're coming from, who you are, what you look like, looking at some of the challenges and the possibilities. It's exciting to me. Again, from an IO perspective, this is ultimately what we strive for. Our focus is not just on rules and regulations. It's about, like you said, employee retention, because at the end of the day, these organizations, these communities, they're made up of what? Individuals, people, right? So that's what it's all about, the human aspect of it, giving that support, giving that empowerment, giving that confidence, self-actualization, all of it is remembering that a human is at the end of all of this benefit.
Yeah.
You're putting chills on my arms.
I'm excited, really excited about it. Again, here, especially here in Ghana.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, Pan, you mentioned like group and team coaching. So there's coaching for individuals. You can work with groups, you can work with teams. And I think that even expands beyond organizations.
Yeah.
It can be in community centers. It can be in churches. It can be in youth groups. It can be in so many places.
Parents. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when you start changing the conversation to that solution focus, that positive, proactive, holding people as empowered and capable, it's a game changer.
Yeah, and I what comes to mind is that, within a lot of developing countries, I know that the governments and the people who have the money are the ones who normally have all the power. But then by providing that coaching, and you mentioned expanding perspectives, right? Now you're changing the way that the individual within the community thinks. And so now they realize, okay, so there are some things which are out of my control, but what is within my control? And what am I doing with what is within my control? Right. And man, like you said, if the whole world had that, my goodness, the things we could do.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Bijou, thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. It's a big part of increasing awareness and in support of increasing access. And we hope more and more coaches out there will join us in that effort. And more and more.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah. Way to go, you, for all the work you're doing.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the support as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Gotta love it. All right. So thank you all. And we're happy to hang around with any additional questions and chats. And happy to connect with people. So thank you.